All right, hello, thank you. Hello and welcome, everybody. So, today's art log, vlog, video log, art live stream log is titled, Why Some High Effort Art Just like looks so bad and some low effort art just looks so darn good. And when I use these terms, I use them obviously very subjectively, right? Like, low effort doesn't mean lack of effort as an artist. Low effort, is subjective in the sense that, an artist might come up with it with a line, right? In a perfect character or line drawing, a single line drawing, and just make it look absolutely amazing in like 30 seconds, while another artist can spend hours and hours and hours painting something, put in lots of effort, right? Days, hours, and it just doesn't look good. And of course, there's a difference between professional artists and, the amateur artists, but there's also a huge realm of artists that I guess they call them art brut, art brut, I guess as the French would say, or like naive art. And I am of the school of thought that there's a such thing as bad art, and not in the sense that the art is like low effort or high effort or whatever, but just doesn't have like qualities of like a good art piece. And if I was to really think on that subject, it's not so much about how much time is put in, how much effort. I mean, obviously great artists who are able to come up with something in just a couple of strokes of a brush that looks amazing. They've probably spent years honing that idea. But this idea of what constitute as like great art versus bad art when it comes from like effort versus reward or whatever, I think it really comes down to one idea, and that's whether the art that you're making, I mean, obviously practice, some things come with practice, right? A lot of things, if you practice, it comes with time, you'll get better at it. But I have seen a lot of like very young artists, my friends' kids, very young artists who can just like pump something out. It actually looks cool. It actually looks like they've got a talent if they can only maintain that. So, rather than thinking it about like high effort versus low effort, of course, professionals can make something look easy, right? They can put in such minimal effort and pump out something beautiful and make it look easy. But I think where it really comes down to is later, babe. I think where it really comes down to is whether the art feels like it comes from within. And this is going to sound very esoteric, very cheesy, but it's like trying to fit a fist into your mouth. Or if you have a very big fist, right? If you want to fit a fist in your mouth, you got to make sure that your fist is either smaller than your mouth or your mouth is bigger than your fist. So in that sense, it's like, if you're trying to do portrait art or you're trying to do abstract art, it really comes down to like, is that something that you truly want to do? Is it like your just natural talent, or are you trying to like fight against the grain? Like, do you naturally want to paint something abstract, but like for whatever reason, the internet has motivated you to try to do realist art, and that's just like not what you're good at, what you're naturally, desiring to do? Or, you're trying to do this like extravagant, like impressionist artwork where in reality, what you'd probably be really talented at is like very technical, realist artwork. And I think that's where the gap is, right? So the great artists that I've seen, like some things just come naturally to them. Obviously after maybe decades and decades of practice, and they could just pump out something really naturally. And you know what? Talented people make hard things look easy. And when it comes to this idea of, sometimes I see people like make art, I'm like, why does that look bad? Where I look at another artist, internet artist, who like makes these like art pieces that they're just like throwing paint on cardboard, and I'm like, why does that look so darn good? right? So I ask these questions. I'm like, why does that look so darn good while another artist, you know, tries so hard to like come up with other paintings and it just doesn't look good. Now obviously we could break down all these technical elements, color theory, composition, subject matter, years of painting, and you know, all of that matters. But you know what? I've seen artists break rules and it just still looks so amazing. Maybe it's because they did it on purpose. But I think it's what comes from the heart of the artist, right? What comes from the heart, the mind, the soul of the artist. And you know, these are things that are much more difficult to nail down as a quality because it's not like an objective quality. But yeah, maybe Mark has said something. Mark Dietz, I know I saw your message. I didn't quite address it right away because I was on a roll with my thoughts. But let's see. That's why good artists use as big of a brush as possible. Landscapes done with small brushes look finicky and overdone. Too much detail is the thing. Yeah. No, so out of your curiosity, I mean, you know, I have seen some artists, including my art. I've seen my art where I try to get too much into finicky detail, and it just doesn't work. And I've tried big brushes, especially for impressionist work, that just totally works. So, but I've also seen Lo Chan-peng. I see this great artist, Lochanpeng. I think he's a Chinese artist. He does some amazing work that's super highly detailed. Like he does an entire painting, portrait painting, with like just like a small brush like this, like just a tiny brush that's, you know, size of barely not even the length of the tip of my finger, and he just uses these tiny details and he creates these beautiful paintings. So you know, I see things that are counterintuitive. You know, for the sake of discussion, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, you know, there are people that make great art that's like super big brushes. You know, like Paul Kenton uses these huge, like, massive canvases, throws these huge globs of paint, and is totally confident with his brush strokes. There's this other artist, what's his name? He's a contemporary artist, Paul Kenton. What the heck is his name? Hold on, let me think on this for a second. I might not even remember. He does. Paul Kenton. Ryan Jensen. I think he's like a slightly lesser known artist, but he does great impressionist work. And he just paints with these huge brushes, as you're saying, and he creates this beautiful impressionist work. But then, you know, I see other artists who use the big brush, and it just doesn't come out the same. I've tried it. I can't do impressionist work. As far as I know right now, I've tried it. I'm not good at impressionist work. And, you know, I think that's probably one of the qualities, right? Like, it's just not my natural ability, and I'm sure if I practiced it enough, I would possibly get good at it. As far as, like, landscape impressionist painting. But, by the way, you know, Mark, I think you're right, but also, like, I'm disagreeing a little bit because I've tried to use big brushes and, like, it just doesn't work for me. So in my mind, I'm like, what really separates these great impressionist artists that I see versus even my work where I try to use that big brush? And I think it comes down to, of course, like talent, ability, practice, a good mentor. But I feel also as if perhaps my mind, my body, these esoteric ideas, these more subjective things, just doesn't naturally flow toward impressionism. Although I like it, maybe I just haven't felt the impressionist bug yet. So I don't really paint impressionists as much, although I do like to totally experiment with impressionist brushstrokes. And you know what? Okay, so you did send a message here. Realism is also a thing. Guess one has to choose. Right. Yeah. So, you know, just for my personal example, like here, let me share some of my pieces that I've tried to go super impressionist, and I'm just like, what is it that's just let me share. I'm like, like let's criticize my work, right? As to what I'm saying. Like, there's some great artists that can pump out like this. I saw some great impressionist artists when I was painting this because it was with a group, and you know I see them use the underpainting. I see them use certain techniques, and I'm like, what about their work just makes it so impressionisty? And you know I try to like mimic some of their techniques and things like that using big brushes. And you know what? I still feel like some of the ideas I just haven't fully captured. Now, I'm not gonna say that my artwork is bad, but in comparison to to what I've attempted to do and what initially was in my head, in my mind of what it should look like, I didn't quite capture it. And you know, I think a lot of that comes down to this idea of me trying to force myself into a certain bubble that just wasn't right. So of course, again, importantly, I think a lot of it comes down to practice. But I would say this was an attempt at something impressionist, but not quite there. But still an interesting work. You know, you get to see some of the brush strokes, and I felt like it was a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, I feel that this was high effort, but not natural. It just didn't feel like a natural thing for me. But again, everything comes with practice. I mean, obviously, Mark, you are a great landscape painter, so it's one of those things. Now, here's another piece. So I painted this live during an event. And some impressionist qualities. There's some funky elements to it. Great colors, lots of impressionist brushwork. But you know what? I've seen some really good art brut, very naive art, very some art that's very. Again, this was painted live. I didn't really have time to get super detailed, but I've seen a lot of art like this, and there's just qualities that I'm like, wow, that's really good. And being critical of my art, I'm like, you know what? There's some things that can definitely be improved here. So, anyway, is this coming naturally to me? I don't know, and I'm not saying like natural in a sense like, oh, you could just pick up a brush and start, making certain things. But if I'm gonna be super critical in critiquing my own pieces, I gotta wonder, like, what makes one piece more aesthetically pleasing, while another piece. I don't know. Am I totally unhappy with this? No. But is there some things that could have been done better? If I'm going to mimic the styles of impressionists or post-impressionists or just very expressionist ideas of capturing a scene, could I have done better? Yeah, totally. So anyway, I thought this was fun, but there are definitely some things that I feel like need work. But anyway, a little bit of a tangent there. Some self-criticism, self-critiques. And that's what brings up the question, like, am I trying to fit myself into a hole, or not a hole, hole's are wrong. Thank you, Mark. But yeah, like fitting myself into a style that maybe doesn't come naturally or whatever. I don't know. But I've seen like some expressionist work, and I'm like, you know what? Like, there's some really good expressionist painters out there, and somehow they just make it work. I don't know. So, I mean, I do know. I think about this a lot. I may not, be an expert on the subject, but there's just some pieces that, that probably take an artist like 10 minutes to come up with. Like, they probably spent years thinking about it, and then in 10 minutes they make it, and it shows somewhere in a nice place. But then other times, not. So, enough on that. Let's get started painting, shall we? This was my initial art log, initial art thoughts on on that. So we're going to start with this head right here. And let's go with I want to go with some light, some pinkish, a little bit of pink here. So I'm going to lay down some of my white, lay down a lot of my white actually, lay it down, lay it down. I'm going to start pulling from this white here. We got our black as well. And here we go. So what we're going to do here is I want to play with a lot more of the lighter areas. So we're going to grab some of this, some of our white, and we're going to go bring that in, bring in some of our ochre. And let's see how we can start to go with this. Let's make some pink along the ears here. Let's define some of the shapes with our red. So anyway, that was an extended discussion on, you know, my thoughts around why does just some art that takes a lot of effort just not look good, while some art that, you know, takes just a few minutes somehow just has a quality, I think. And you know what, we can all be in the school of thought that in the art world nobody really knows what they're talking about, right? We've all heard that, like most of us are just kind of making things up as we go. But I do think that there is some idea that, you know, there are certain qualities that make even the most abstract pieces or quickly made pieces look quite interesting, while others are less so. So I'm going with some red into some of these areas. I'm going to blend in some red here. Let's add a little bit more than just this red ochre. I want like a vibrant red here. So Mark, what do you think on this idea? Like, what are your thoughts on what makes some low effort art good and some high effort art bad? Not by too much detail is what I told a kid who you helped out. He wants to detail everything. I said, if everything is detailed, then nothing is detailed. Mystery is good. Yeah, totally. There's this idea. I don't know if you've ever heard of just Gestalt, Gestalt, but one of my art mentors was telling me about this idea of Gestalt, where Gestalt is basically the idea that anything we see, we take in as a whole. And, you know, the mind can only take in so many details at a single given moment. And because of that, trying to think about the painting while talking, but you know, because of that, any detail that's like super extraneous is really just a flex at a certain point. You know, like, oh yeah, I can put all these details, and it's really only after someone spends like 10-15 minutes digging in that they're like, whoa, this person is so detailed. But I think the reality is that the majority of paintings, you know, when people consume them visually, a lot of the detail is like lost. It's like, you know, driving. When you're driving, you don't take in and remember every single car that's on the road, every single color of the car and all those details or whatnot. You kind of take them in as they come. Trying to think if this pink is a nice color. I don't know if I'm a fan. Maybe a little too much pink. So we're gonna play around with the cheeks here. Let me play around with pink on the cheeks. and see how it goes with this figure. We'll start with her. A little bit of pink on the upper cheek, right? A little bit of pink right there. There we go. I don't even know where the pink should go, but I'm just adding it in. A little bit of blush, giving these things life here. A bit of pink on the tip of the nose. Just a slight hint of pink. Let's go with a little bit of pink on the lip here. Not too much, just a little bit. This kid's head has way too much pink, so we're gonna fix that up in a little bit. But I actually do like how this pink has appeared under here. Get some color there. And then we're gonna go right on the top of this cheek in the front here. People like a painting that makes them wonder a bit about what they see, lost edges and misted out areas, make them look a little deeper, and even make up what they're seeing. Yeah, totally. Definitely, the adding mist, oh my goodness. Knowing how to add like atmosphere into a painting is a totally a very important skill if when done right. So I can see what's going on here. I want to add some color into this cheek here, maybe down into the nose. Let's go around like this. And we're going to go right down into here. Let's go. Using a little bit of red to fuel some of this painting here. And adding a little bit of color. Let's see who else needs some color. Maybe along this, oh, I gotta fix this. So, let's see, before we go any further, let me just add a little bit of this pink on the cheek here. Not too much, but just a little bit of detail. Just to capture some color differences. And here we go. So a little bit around the nose, around the cheek, just to kind of give it a feel. This one's a little too red, so we will work with that, but for now, let's go. I think eventually I'm going to basically go over all this with some interesting designs. Okay, so this is a little bit too hard of an edge here around this face. We need to round it out. And we're going to feminize this a bit. Feminize this a bit. Oh yeah, and speaking of like super detail, I had one mentor. He's a really great artist, does a lot of concept art. He's a really well-known concept artist. He makes like concept and designs for many games that many of you have probably played if you're watching, that many people have probably played. And got to bring this ear out a little bit more so that most people have probably played if they're a gamer. And he talked about this idea how one of the paintings that is absolutely amazing, or a digital drawing. He did this absolutely amazing digital drawing, and it had so much detail. He like literally went into this drawing and pretty much drew like every crack in the road. He had a glove, and you could see like, and the gloves were like made out of this like Kevlar type material. You could see every groove perfectly spaced out in the glove if you zoomed in really, really far. And he says that's like one of the the artworks that he thinks is one of his like worst, because he left no space for the imagination. And you know, although he's proud of the detail that he went into, he feels like it didn't really add enough value to the artwork itself. He didn't really feel like he added much value in that sense. And yeah. So that was a really eye-opening thing for me, like this idea of being over-detailed. So I'm looking on tightening up this eye here. It has some qualities that just make it a little too masculine, and I haven't quite figured it out what that quality is yet. So I'm working on blending them in. Adding some blending here. And I'm kind of adopting this technique I learned from just watching Lo Chan Pang. He like literally he just builds out his entire painting based on using just this tiny brush, much smaller than this. And I wanted to play with that idea, like what could happen if I just just use a tiny brush to not so much add detail, but to just create texture, to create design. And this space needs to be fixed before I go any further. I keep getting distracted. There's so much to do. There's so much to do. Maybe where would some red be on the neck? Maybe like on the top of the bust here. Add a little bit of a pure red here. This doesn't look as soft and gentle as the cheeks. I probably used a little too much red here. Probably a little too saturated of the red, but you know what? That's okay. We're going to keep going with this and exploring a lot of color variety on this. This painting will take a while we're going after it. And just keep going, keep designing, keep our painting. Around the forehead there. And these are technically all busts, so they don't really have like a color to them. There's technically supposed to be white, but you know what, I like to add my own twist to things. And because of that, some things might not be very unusual, might seem very unusual. And let's go. Oh yeah, so these probably need to go on the lips. So get some of this on the lip here. And let's see. This figure right here. give them some red lip. A little bit more red lip here. We're just going to keep going with this. Let's give them the same lip on this figure right here. And let's see, so at some point I will need to fix these ears, but here we go. We're going to do a lip right up here. Let's get back to this head right here. We're going to go just a bit of red around the top here, round this out. And then same thing here. I'm gonna work this lip in. And we'll work on shadow in a bit, but for now, just add this color. See, I feel like I could do so much with this brush. There's so much I can do to play with it. Start right here. Now let's work on these heads right here. These two heads. The noses are a bit too long. So I need to adjust some of these elements here. What to do. Okay. Now's when we get to start to add some interesting stuff to this painting. I think I reached the point where it's time to start playing around and establishing better details. So here we go. So earlier at the start of this video, if you're just tuning in, I was talking about what I think are the differences. And of course, so much of art is subjective. I am of the school, or I am of the belief system that there is a such thing as good art and bad art. And it's not just based on, technical qualities. And it's always opinion, But I do feel as if there are some pieces that, are low effort pieces that don't really have any really good qualities, and then there's some low effort pieces. I mean, obviously if a big gallery says it's a good piece, I'm gonna agree with them. All right, for the most part. But there's a little sarcasm there, by the way. But not being the end all be all idea there. I think there are some pieces that well-known artists can put together in just a few moments, while someone can spend a lot of time doing something. It's not that there's something off technically about the piece, but there's just something spiritually off for lack of a better term, of meeting the artist, like combining what they really, really, really want to do and achieve as an artist on the artwork versus what they're actually trying to do. I think I gotta tighten up this. Let's figure out what to do with this piece right here. So I'm gonna go back to some of these neutral colors that I had, and we're gonna go in here. And lighten them up a bit. So let's go with, how did I get that color yesterday? I got this great color yesterday. It's like a gray, but I'm trying to think of the colors that I actually used to achieve it. Maybe a little bit of blue here. Let me pull up some of this blue, see what I'd come up with. No, that didn't do it. Maybe a bit more white. Some of this ochre. Some of this. A bit more of this red, purple. Oh, it's just super gray. To find a good skin tone. So thinking through this process, I need to lighten this up a lot more. And let's go like this. I think we're almost there. A bit more of this. I guess I could use this for a lighter shade, and we're gonna go right under here. Create a light space and go right into the chin here. And I want to reduce the size of this eyebrow for now. And let's see. How is that looking? I don't know. Not sure if I like this color. We'll see in a few. Let's see what accidents, what happy accidents we could come up with. Starting to use thicker globs of paint here. Let's go up right into this forehead. And here we go. So we have committed to this color. We're going to see how it starts to affect our painting. Oh, here we go. And there needs to be a cheek that comes up right here. It goes to separate right there. Goes up the eye. We need a little bit of an eyelid right here. Let's go like this. Let's add some more color to this one. So we're going to separate this piece. Go. And we're going to keep working this. Let's get these faces right. You know, I was reading about Vincent van Gogh. He was a very critical artist. My goodness. I think if Vincent van Gogh was an artist today, I'm not quite convinced that he would make a lot of friends, solely because of the idea he was like very picky about art, which, you know, makes sense. He's brilliant. But I guess even in his lifetime, he didn't make that many friends. And I just find it so interesting. You know, totally intriguing character. Boy, did he struggle with social interaction. Where should we go? Some hashing right here. There we go, okay. A little bit of a highlight, slight highlight around the edge of the neck here. Cloudy. Make this a bit cloudy. A wispiness. Let's see how we can sharpen this piece right here. We're going to go under the eye, under the eyelid, and go straight down. And we're going to come up on that face. Let's start to separate this piece here. Go with this darker color. When I get silent, that's when I'm thinking too much. I'm like, where did I mess up? I'm going to guard my privacy and abide by my community guidelines. Yes, we must abide by our community guidelines here. When I get quiet, that's when I'm like, I shouldn't say this, but I feel like I've reached a point of no return as far as this design goes. That I have to commit to something, which, you know, isn't true about art, because you can always start a new one. Or you can always do a paint over. I just feel like with this head, I'm having quite some issues. Like one side of the face looks kind of charred and the other looks kind of like bright and like painted over. And just doesn't fit the rest of the painting. But maybe I just need to step back from it and go into another part. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this work and let's go into this face. And let's see, so just a little bit of a highlight around the front here. This is way too dark. And let's see, so here we go. This one will definitely need a shadow around the top. But what is this? What is this part right here? Oh yeah, okay, I remember what I was doing. This part needs to be brought down a bit. And let's go around this nose. We're gonna blend in around the nose here. And we're going to go towards the front of this. And then we're going to curve around the back right here. Keep going up, 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 and away. There we go. The head's going to need a lot of work. But we shall continue to work. So let's see, we're going to go into here. It reaches a certain point with my paintings where I'm like, okay, I'm happy with the technical elements of it, but now I want to fuss around with the expressive elements of it. And I still haven't quite reached that point where I'm like, this is where I want it to be from a technical standpoint. Let's see if we could blend in some of this red, because as I had said earlier, I think it's a little too much red. There we go. Made it a bit more subtle. Definitely around the bottom area here. I don't want it to be so much. There we go, subtleness. Subtlety. That's the word of the day, subtlety. Subtlety. That did a job. There we go, just some subtle features. And there's something I'm thinking now, like something I got to do with this black, because it makes it look like he's got like a goatee. And this is supposed to be a baby head. I know, Mark, you said, I don't know if you're still here, you told me not to mess with that head. Have I ever worked from grays, like mixing 3 primaries and doing my stuff? You can make things glow with grays. You know, so my last painting, I don't have it on here, but my last painting, I used grays. And like, I have not, well, to answer your question, no, I have not. And the reason why I have not is I'm scared of grays, honestly. Yeah, if I was to be honest, I'm scared of grays because that is a color that I feel like is incredibly challenging to make it look incredibly interesting as far as like color goes. Like part of my goal as an artist is, you know, gray is a very hard color to make it look like interesting. Like if I use reds, I can, you know, kind of make it pop. If I use like browns, even like browns, there's like a quality to browns that like makes it work. But if I use gray, it's just like such a challenging color to work with, I think. So I have not worked with grays yet. I have not tried a full gray piece. Let's go like this. The cranium needs to be a bit brighter, while this part needs to be a bit darker. So we're going to go around the edge here. And we're going to go around the edge. Let's add bring in this that piece right there. Mix primaries because they're basically all colors. They're compatible with all colors. You can lean towards warm or cool, etc. It becomes easy. Mixing 3 primaries and doing my stuff. So you're saying, let me clarify what you're saying. You're saying to just take red, blue, and yellow and just mix them, and then like move out from there. Like it sounds like you're talking about a very specific technique. Like versus other than like grayscale. Do you mean just like working from grayscale, totally with just grays? Is that what you mean? Like a traditional art study would just be working totally with values, right? Is that what you mean, or are you talking about something else? I haven't done. In the past, I've done exercises with values. Like I might use like just red and different values of red, but I've never actually used like just gray. I've never actually just used just gray. Red, yellow, blue makes black. Mixing in white makes gray, but because it's so neutral and contains all colors, you can put any color around. I see what you're saying. Okay, so you're just saying work with gray, and then because of that, you can work in all these colors around it. I haven't tried that. I've not tried that. On my last painting, my background ended up being gray. And I was able to, you know what, I think you're right, because, you know, on my last piece, I did do a gray background inadvertently. And I was actually excited with the turnout because I was able to put all sorts of colors around it, as you're saying. You know, now that I'm analyzing my last piece, and as you're saying, I was able to do a lot with it. So, yeah, I guess this kid's head is a little too big, but we'll fix it in a little bit. But for now, I want to add some texture as we go down here. Ooh, earthquake. Oh, do y'all see that? Can you see the shaking? It's an earthquake. Oh. Uh-oh. I feel an earthquake. Y'all see the shaking? That might be the pre-quake. Guys, that might have just been the pre-quake, people. Let's hope, that was a pretty big pre-quake. I haven't felt an earthquake like that in a little while. But hopefully everybody's okay. That was pretty intense. I mean, not the craziest earthquake LA has ever experienced, but it was definitely a bit more serious than usual. So we're going to go into this head now, and it's time to add the shadows with this head. And bring down maybe a little bit darker. I need to go just a little bit darker with this color. The ochre here. Create the separation. And let's go around here. Let's go even darker around the front here. And just building up the space little by little. Nice and subtly. I'm still feeling this earthquake. Still feeling the shakes, people. Still feeling the shakes. Uh-oh. What does that mean? I need to make this head a little smaller. So what we're going to do here in a few moments is we're going to carve it out. Yes, that's right. You heard right. We're going to carve out That is one hard-looking baby. He is this is a baby that's growing up to become like a Mongolian king. Like the ruler of a Mongolian army. So here we go. We're actually going to add some of this color around the side just to create some interest here. Some interesting details always with the brushwork. Uh-oh. The earthquake happened and now there's some police sirens, which that might mean some people have been hurt. Hope everybody's okay. Alexa, did an earthquake just happen?
Recently, there was a 4.7 magnitude quake 2 miles from South Pasadena, California on August 12th at 12:20 p.m.
Wow, so there was an earthquake just about 15 miles away. 10 to 15 miles away. Pretty crazy. The most serious earthquake I've felt thus far. So I need to add some of this color, and we need to add it in gently. I keep too much painting and it ends up looking like this. Too much thick paint. So I need to be more gentle with this paint addition here onto this piece, to this figure. I think we've tightened up this piece enough. I'm going to work this central head a bit. Piece needs some work. We got some highlighting to the lip there. Shadow's a bit deep. And I think the lip size needs to match a little better, but let's go tighten up this space right here. Don't want her to look like she smeared her lipstick. And let's go like at the here, and at the chin a bit. Get this a little bit looser. Make the shadow seem not so hard, and then add a little bit of a light down here, a wispy light. This neck looks very jacked up, so we will adjust this. We will need to do some adjusting, but maybe it's just as simple as just loosening up this piece right here. Let's see. Loosen up, lighten up the shadow, a little too dark. So all we're doing is just softening it up. And I really like how the form on this head is coming out. But I do want to add a bit more shadow on the top of the head here, so I come to a shadow right down here. And let's go down like so. And then I'll leave that shadow, right? Yeah, a little bit. Push the shadow up. There we go. We'll leave just a little bit of that shadow. Curve it around the eye right there. And that's cool. So add the shadow. We need to go in here using like a red ochre or yellow, an ochre. Basically make this shadow a little bit less pronounced. Just to soften that detail. And this eye needs to have some of this shadow here. Actually, I should probably use a different color for this eye, which I can do in a little bit, but not right now. One thing at a time, Emmett. One thing at a time. I'm one of those painters that whenever I see something that needs to be done, I want to do it like right away, which can be good, right? If you're making a mistake, according to Richard Schmidt, let me share this book with you all. It's a very well-known art book. According to artist Richard Schmidt in Alla Prima 2, according to this artist, if you ever see a mistake, if you ever have a mistake in your work, you should really fix it like right away. But since I'm not necessarily seeing, since I have so many things I gotta do, it's a great book. Since I have so many things to do, I can easily get distracted. And let's see, I really like where this head is. What's going on, Prescott? How you doing? Earthquakes. So anyway, back to painting, Emmett. Red, yellow, blue makes black, mixing in white. Yeah, the painting wasn't, I mean, the earthquake wasn't too serious. Felt pretty normal. I don't know where you live, but I think our earthquakes in LA, I've definitely felt quite a few. So it didn't really feel like something that I should necessarily worry about right away. Well, what's going on, Prescott? How are you? Soften up these hard edges here. Hey, Kat. I don't know, you tell me. Did you feel the earthquake?
Yeah.
That's big, huh?
Yeah, but I was on the porch, so it could have been a big truck over there.
Oh, but you didn't know, so you didn't realize it was an earthquake?
I said it feels like an earthquake, but it doesn't necessarily mean it.
Right. I asked Alexa, they said it was in Pasadena.
Really? It's not violent. Yeah, I definitely felt it, but it wasn't that big. Could have been a truck. Hey, Bert, did you do the earthquake? Yeah.
Said, you're darn right I did.
The animals are more sensitive.
Huh?
Animals are more sensitive. sensitive.
Yes,
to
they
that.
are. What do you think?
Very well done.
Falling asleep 1:30 midnight. Earthquakes are pretty common for us in Bangladesh near the equator. So yeah.
Okay. How's it going? Yeah. 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 How's it going? What do you need?
And let me add.
What do you
I'm
need?
gonna use
Pretty kitty.
some of this pink
You're
for
a good
highlight.
baby.
I'm gonna use some pink for highlight around this eye right here. Let's go.
Where's the kitten? Well, there's one. There's the other one. What time do you want to eat lunch?
Whatever.
I'm hungry.
Ooh, I can't believe I'm doing this by freehand. My goodness.
What's
Feel-
freehand?
I'm doing this eye. Freehand.
How else would you do it? Do you have an eye template?
No, I could have a ruler to kind of like put my arm on.
I see. No, baby.
All right, I don't want to mess this up, so I'm gonna use my ruler to set my arm on. But I was surprised at how well that turned out. I guess we can add a little blush around the sides, right? As long as it's pretty much the same value, we can pretty much just blush this in. It's a bit of pink. We need to go back into it. We can paint the blues. We can paint the eyeballs something different color, which I might give her red laser eyes. I don't know yet. But let's see something about these ears. Let's do something about the ears here. Bring in our ochre here. Bring back our ochre. And let's tighten up how some of these ears look here. Because the yellow ear just really isn't cutting it. I want it to feel more natural. And the outline's a little too harsh. I don't mind a little bit of an outline, but the outlines are too harsh. I don't think it's going to give me a good... It has to be consistent, I think, is the secret. So, Prescott, have you talked to your parents about what's going on? Or good night, take care. We got earthquakes in Calgary, but we do get baseball-sized hail. Ooh, baseball-sized hail, that sounds dangerous. How do you protect your cars? You just got to cover it, huh? That sounds super dangerous, dude. Getting hit in the head with a baseball, an ice baseball, like that sounds like a lot of concussions waiting to happen. So here we go. We got to tighten up this part of the ear just to kind of give it like a more natural flow into the thicker space. And it helps to create this distance, this separation in the ear here. So tighten up this just a little bit more, a little bit less outline. You can have outline because it's part of the painting, but I don't mind having outline as part of the painting, but I definitely want to at least have some separation. do you think, Kat? It's coming along nicely,
yeah,
right?
It's really good. I love it. Years.
Huh?
Years.
And then now let's cover down right here. We're gonna cover down right there. And here we go. Let's tighten up this space right here. Or lighten up the shadow so that it's not too wide. And then we're gonna go right here with the shadow, a bit tightened. Just want to soften these areas here. Might have to work this at least a few more days, but I think we're getting somewhere. We're making positive progress. Seen bigger get caught in an open field during a bad hailstorm and you're in trouble. They actually seed clouds here to make it hail before the hailstones grow. Well, that's a great idea because I would have absolutely no idea what to do in a serious hailstorm.
You don't get hail in Florida?
Huh?
You ever got hail in Florida?
Nope. Never got hail in Florida.
You got it in South Carolina.
Alright, so this head is in a good spot. I think next we should work on this other head down here on the left. This is our next project. And we're going to focus on...
You're too plain with Simba's tail. I don't like that.
Is he just sitting there letting them do it?
Yes, because he's eating.
Oh.
He's going to play with his head.
I'm going to use this color to establish the lighter zones. Lighter zones of interest. And I think what needs to happen is this nose needs to go in a bit further. So we're going to color down this nose. And there's something about this figure's features that are just not working. Maybe this nostril's too big or something, but need to figure that out. Give it a bit of a longer nose. Let's give the eye some shape right here. We're gonna go swoop, so that this yellow isn't too distracting, and then we're gonna go like we did with this other side here. And then then a bit of this eye texture right into here. And this part is going to need a lot of work, but we'll keep working it. We will work it until we don't need to work it no more. What I also feel like needs to be done is this ear needs to be pushed over a little bit.
See it?
And then this whole thing needs to be given a little bit more roundness. Nose is going to curve down like so. Here's also what needs to happen. So I think what can happen is this cheek can be a little bit more round. All right. Trying to think, is there something with this head? I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be either like, I think it's supposed to be Aphrodite, but it's a very masculine head. Right, Kat? This head looks very masculine, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to think
The
of...
do-rag? Yeah.
Huh?
That's definitely a man.
Huh?
Definitely a man with a do-rag.
That's not a do. This looks more feminine, right?
Which one?
This one.
What was the one that looked masculine?
This one.
They both look masculine.
Really?
It's my opinion.
No, you're right. I mean, I don't disagree.
Don't think so? That's fine.
I'm trying to think of what the quality is that is making it so.
It's supposed to be a woman?
I think it's supposed to be like a version of that, like Aphrodite.
Really? Some of those Greek god standards of beauty are weird.
How so?
What they thought was attractive, we don't think is attractive.
You don't think so?
That's hot.
I know. But what's going on here? This is gonna frustrate me. Like, I know what's wrong. It's just I'm trying to think of how I'm going to fix it without messing up everything. I mean, worst case scenario is I only mess up this one part.
What are you trying to do?
Trying to make this more feminine of a face.
Well, I think we should just leave it. Let people make their own
You
conclusions.
think so?
Yeah. Or maybe do eyelashes?
No.
It's
That's
the chin that looks nasty.
really? You think it's a chin?
Yeah. anything you can do about that. Just leave it. You'll mess it up.
Huh?
Don't mess it up. Oh yeah,
What?
the school system sent information about today.
Gotta go. Hey, take care. Take care, Mark. See ya. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, it's time to eat, actually. So I should probably. Is there some of that for me?
You want some?
Yeah.
Yeah. Only one paper plate.
I think this one could pass for either male or female. You know, like, I guess masculine faces back in the day for sculpture was like, there was like a mix, right? Like the masculine male figure was sometimes portrayed in a way that was more feminine by today's standards, right? Am I wrong?
Hmm?
Huh?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
What?
I said, like, back in the day, masculine features, male features in like sculpture and stuff would sometimes be what we might consider feminine.
Oh, yeah, that's
Today.
true too. Yes.
Kitten, why are you under there? Don't go under there. Alright. Well, people, this is a good time for a break. This is the part where I start to doubt myself, and I need a break, step back, think through some of these problems, and then when I come back, hopefully our mind comes up with a solution. But that is one great thing that I find about posting on social media, is when I post on social media, especially works that are incomplete, I get a alternative perspective of it, and it gives me an opportunity to kind of like look back at it and make certain decisions about what can be improved and what not. But hey, everybody, take care. Prescott, Mark, thanks for tuning in.